You ever have one of those days where you wake up and realize your whole world's about to get flipped upside down and not even by your own doing? That was me the morning I found out 52 families. My own neighbors, mind you, had voted to pay $1,000 a month each just to wipe my cattle ranch off the map. My place, my family's place for 70 years. A real Texas legacy suddenly labeled a nuisance by the Willowbrook Estates HOA. And let me tell you, they were ready for war. Only they forgot to double-check one small detail where their property actually ended and mine began. You know what I mean? Their fancy parking lots, their sparkling pool, those perfectly trimmed lawns. Well, turns out they were all sitting pretty right on my land. The night before, I'd gotten a tip-off from Carol, one of the few neighbors with a conscience about the HOA's agenda. So for the first time, I showed up to their monthly meeting, found myself a spot in the back row, and just watched the circus unfold. Rebecca Sterling, the self-declared Queen Bee in her knockoff suit, was clicking through a slideshow that looked like a middle school project, spewing junk science about methane and protecting our children. I wanted to laugh, but my hand was white-knuckling that pen as she announced the solution: jack up the HOA fees to fund a legal war chest against me. Hands went up, faces went pale, but Rebecca's smile said it all. Like a wolf that had just cornered the sheep. Next morning, I get a certified letter, 73 violations. Everything from cows visible from street causing psychological distress to excessive mooing. You can't make this stuff up. I sipped my coffee, called up Tom Crawford, my lawyer. An old friend told him, "They just declared war." He just laughed, said, "Remember what your granddad used to say." Sometimes the best ammunition is patience and paperwork. So I dug into the old roll-top desk Grandpa left me, original property surveys maps, deeds going back decades. That's when I found it the surveyor's marks from '54 didn't match up with the current lines. Their whole east end, including their massive parking lot, was smack dab on Briggs' land. That was my land, and their HOA had been trespassing for years. You know, you hear people say, "Don't bring a knife to a gunfight," but in Texas, the real trick is not to bring a lawsuit when you're standing on someone else's dirt. I started planning my counterattack, copying documents, cross-checking everything 3 ways ready for when Rebecca would try to make her next move. But I didn't expect what happened next, she and her buddies dumping trash at my gate cameras, rolling, acting like I was some environmental menace. I just raised my coffee in salute. Then I called the local news. If she wanted a show, I'd give her one. The survey crew arrived, and so did the Channel 9 truck. By noon, half the neighborhood was gathered watching as Bill Richardson, the best surveyor in the state, laid down the law. People started to sweat. Phones came out, folks checking their own deeds, looking real nervous. Carol sidled up and whispered, "Nathan, is this true? I just showed her the maps, my maps." And just when you thought things couldn't get messier, Rosa, the HOA treasurer, knocked on my door that night, hands shaking. Turns out Rebecca had been stealing from the HOA for years, over 70 grand gone legal fees ending up in her personal account. Fake invoices, meetings with shady developers who'd been promised my ranch would be available soon. Suddenly, this wasn't about cow smell, it was about greed. By Saturday, survey results went public. Richardson stood up, voice gravelly, and announced to everyone that 92 acres of Willowbrook, including their pool parking and half the lawns, was actually my ranch. You should have seen the chaos, shouting panic. Some folks dead silent, others dialing lawyers. Rebecca lost it, started throwing things, screaming about conspiracies. Deputy Harris had to step in real calm. "Ma'am, that's destruction of property." She swung her purse at him every second, caught by the news cameras. That night, Rebecca blasted out a mass email emergency protest at my ranch, 6:00 a.m. Sunday. I read it while checking on a sick calf, just shook my head. Called Tom and said she's organizing a protest on land she doesn't own. He told me, "Have those rent invoices ready." So bright and early, the HOA crowd showed up with signs and megaphones. They didn't see the process server waiting. He let Rebecca lead a few rounds of chanting before tapping her shoulder. "You've been served." The envelope had notices, $2,000 rent per household per month for 2 years, $2.5 million for illegal use of my land. People started pulling out their phones, doing the math, and the mood shifted fast. "We bought these homes," someone shouted. I just told them, "You bought the houses, the parking, the pool, the yards. That's mine. Your beef is with your developer, but your rent, that's between you and me." Rebecca's meltdown was legendary. Ripped up papers screamed at neighbors. But then her own supporters started turning on her. Carol stood up at the next HOA meeting demanding a review of the legal fund. Rosa, brave as ever, showed receipts. Rebecca's shopping sprees and car payments all disguised as legal expenses. Someone found an email spelling it all out. Jack up fees, force the ranch out, sell to developers, split the profits. The vote to remove Rebecca failed by a few, but her grip was broken. People were finally waking up. Rebecca, though, wasn't done. Security cameras caught her at 3 a.m., cutting my fence, letting cattle out onto the highway, causing a 3-car pileup. I called Tom and said Phase 2. The state trooper reviewed the footage, plain as day, Rebecca's face in the IR light. Next morning, police arrested her loading boxes in her driveway. She screamed about persecution, agricultural terrorism, the whole bit, but no one was buying it anymore. With her gone, the HOA called an emergency meeting, unanimous vote for a forensic audit. They found Rebecca had stolen nearly $150,000. Residents started sharing stories of blackmail and threats she'd ruled by fear, but now people wanted change. Rosa became president. The old crew voted out. I made my own statement, automatic gates across the parking areas. The families who'd voted to negotiate got access codes. The holdouts had to park on the street, sweat it out in the Texas sun, and finally every last one caved. The HOA signed a new usage agreement, $1,500 per month per household, the money going into a scholarship fund and to maintain the land. Plus their kids got to come out to the ranch, learn about agriculture, real hands-on stuff. And for the first time in ages, the community started feeling like an actual community. Rebecca, meanwhile, violated her bail, showed up drunk, swinging a bat at my truck, ended up face down in a mud puddle, and this time there was no bail. She tried to represent herself in court, blamed Big Beef, accused me of being part of a conspiracy, even claimed psychological warfare via cows. The jury took less than an hour, guilty on all counts. 4 years in prison, ordered to pay back everything she stole. 6 months later, the ranch and the neighborhood had been transformed. Farmers markets, scholarships, kids learning to rope and garden. Rosa's daughter even got a full ride to Texas A+&M, thanks to the land fund. My biggest headache became making sure everyone had enough pie at the community barbecue. Rebecca, meanwhile, sat in minimum security, running the prison law library and writing angry blog posts. No one read her house was bought by Carol, who turned it into the new community center. But yeah, you never really kill the weeds, you just stay vigilant. The day I got a letter from Rebecca's mom trying to sick the Department of Agriculture on me, I just laughed. Because this time I wasn't standing alone, I had a whole community at my back, and we all knew how to play the game. In Texas, there's a few things you don't mess with: football, barbecue, and a rancher's land. Rebecca learned that the hard way. Her little war ended up building the strongest community this county's ever seen. And in the end, I guess the best kind of revenge is making sure everyone around you gets to live a little better too. Now tell me, after all that, where do you stand on justice, community, and what you'd do if your neighbor tried to take what's yours? Drop a comment. Let's hear your side.